Welcome back. The silver-colored three-legged pot, commonly used to cook boikikos and other many favorites, may pose serious health risks, including kidney damage due to possible lead exposure. Times Live reports that, according to the Department of Health, the informally manufactured pots can contribute to lead poisoning. The World Health Organization warns that lead exposure is particularly harmful to children and can lead to permanent intellectual disability, lower IQ, and behavioral issues, while adults may experience high blood pressure, infertility, and cognitive decline. I'm now joined by Dr. Angela Mathie, who's a Chief Specialist Scientist at the Environment and Health Research Unit at the SAMRC. Doc, a very good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time. Doc, this pot cooks many of our favorite meals, especially in South Africa. Just talk to us about the risks that are associated with using these pots, and is it only the silver pot, or is it the silver and the black three-legged pot?
Good morning, Katlego. No, the black pots are significantly safer than the silver pots. The concern is that the silver pots are made from scrap metal, so old car parts, radiators, old snack ridges, irons, toasters, etc. So it's a mix of metals that go into the furnace or fire to make those pots. And with that comes several contaminants about which we are concerned, like arsenic and cadmium. And the one that we've researched the most is the lead. So when food is cooked in those pots, those toxic metals leach from the pot itself into the food. So as you're consuming your food, you also potentially are consuming some of these toxic metals on a daily basis.
So what would be the invisible or the silent signs that one needs to look out for when it comes to lead poisoning?
So lead does have the label, the silent epidemic. So it's unlike if a child has diarrheal disease and they're vomiting and experiencing diarrhea, that is impossible to miss. But with lead poisoning, you can't look at a child and see that that child has the IQ points have been lowered by a few degrees. You actually have to go and do a blood lead test. Some of the symptoms may give some indication that a child may have lead exposure, like hyperactivity, difficulty in concentrating, struggling at school, a poor performance at school, higher failure rates, lower attainment of tertiary educational qualifications. Then there are the clinical effects, anemia, as you said, hypertension and kidney damage, and that in turn leads to cardiovascular disease. There's also a lot of research that's come out of the past decade or two pointing to an association with aggression and violent behavior.
So what would parents need to do at this point, Doc? I mean, you're speaking about research that has come out from the last decade or two, meaning there could be a lot of exposure for not just children, but also adults, but particularly when it comes to children and their IQ levels being lowered. What should parents be doing currently, maybe even just to reverse some of these symptoms?
So unfortunately, most of the symptoms are not reversible. That is why prevention really is the most powerful answer to all of that. And not using these pots or any other sources of lead in a child or in a family's environments. So the safest pots at the moment are pots that are made of steel or glass, or enamel, high quality enamel coating. And for people who have no option, because we do understand that these exposures to lead often occur in communities that are very poor. And there's a saying that the younger you are and the poorer you are, the greater your risk of lead exposure. So what we know from research done in various countries around the world is that when you cook with acidic foods, so foods that have pineapple or lemon or tomatoes in them, the rate of leaching is higher. So if you have no option but to use these pots, then we would like to see people try as far as possible to use more neutral pH foods in those pots, and to also not store food overnight in those pots, rather put them in a safer container. But in the long run, I think we need a deep strategy to reduce the risk from these pots to all the affected communities.
And I
That
think
looks at labeling and other interventions.
And that's really my next question, Doc, when it comes to certification and labeling and just also the informal and unregulated cookware. What do you think needs to be done to make people more aware? What should people be looking out for when it comes to these utensils in us using to cook our food?
So one of the things, in the first instance, always knowledge is power. So that's where an agency like Newsroom Africa is playing an important role to increase people's knowledge and awareness of the risks associated with these pots. But I do think we need a deeper consideration of the full extent of the risks and the opportunities for intervention. And the National Department of Health already has in place a national lead exposure prevention working group. And that may be the best place to actually get experts and various sectors together to think about these pots in a comprehensive way. I'm fully understanding of the fact that the people who make these pots, it's really an important, and for many of them, the only source of a livelihood. And so that also needs to be taken into account. It's really hard, back-breaking work, high-risk work that they